Right. All right, welcome everyone to our first MOOC coming from Tricentis Academy. This is Taking the First Steps in Tosca Commander. We're very happy that you could join us today, and all of those who will be joining us later and watching the recording of this session. Welcome everyone. We hope that you enjoy this time with us. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Melissa Collins. I am a Tricentis training consultant. We are here in Vienna. It is a beautiful day, 2 in the afternoon. And we have people joining us from around the world. Also here with me is another colleague.
Hi, my name's Tony Leeming. Again, I'm also a Tricentis training consultant.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Laun. I'm also training consultant, a little bit longer in the company so far, assuming me as an expert.
Excellent. So the three of us today are going to cover today's topics, taking the first steps in Tosca Commander. The main items that we'll cover today will be Tosca navigation and menu options, arranging your workspace, and working in a multi-user environment. These three things will be very important to everyone working in Tosca, whether you've done some trainings before, you've already spent some time using Tosca, or you're brand new. We hope that today you'll be able to find some information that will be helpful to you. So the session today, we just have a couple rules just to help you be on the same page as us so you all understand what to expect with this session and then the upcoming MOOCs as well, because we'd like to continue doing this if we get good feedback and if it's something beneficial to you, the students. And so the MOOC etiquette today, we just want to remind you we will be starting and finishing on time for each of the sessions. They will last 1 hour. The first half, roughly, will be presentation, demonstration. You can sit back and listen. We won't be doing any hands-on exercises for these webinars. And then at the end, we'll be finishing after 1 hour. The second half will be mainly Q&A. We want to hear from you. What are your questions? What can we help with? But still stay right on topic, only going over the multi-user and navigation through Tosca, just the basics for today so that we can just cover very well the topics that we've prepared for you. If anything is off topic, we would just possibly skip over those questions because of time or save them for another time, that sort of thing. All of the participants are muted. Your computers were not able to hear you, but if you do need us, you can write in the question box, and we'll be able to get all of your text and hear from you that way. That would be the best for us. And that's the same with the Q&A. Whenever you have questions, just put them in the question box, and we will save them for the second half of the session. The recording of this MOOC will be available very soon, and as soon as that's available, we'll just send out an email and you can watch that on your own time. So sit back, relax, listen, and we're going to get started. The first thing we'd like to do is launch a poll question. So this poll is actually a question that should appear on your screen right now, and each person can have a few seconds just to go in, click on the answer that is applicable to you. The question is, what is the highest certification you currently hold from Tricentis? Which course have you finished and hold a certificate? And as soon as we have about 80, 90, 100% participation, we'll be showing the results, and that'll help us just determine who's here with us today, help us to get to know a little bit about you. Okay, I'm going to close the poll in a few seconds. Thank you for everyone who's participating. And now for everyone's curiosity, I am going to share the results to see who's here with us today. So basically what we're looking at is a lot of people are beginners with Tosca. That's excellent because the topics that we're covering today will be very beneficial to everyone here. And we just want to thank you for being a part of our courses and the trainings and everything. So I'll hide that right now. And we'll move right into the next subject.
Okay, thank you very much, Melissa. What we're going to talk about briefly now is we're going to talk about the navigating around Tosca and some of the menu options that you can choose whilst using Tosca Commander. So rather than looking at a PowerPoint, what we're going to do is look at Tosca. So just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so you should now all have in front of you the default view of the Tosca Commander, our wonderful piece of software that we all know and love, or will soon get to know and love. So let's start with the most important things from our side. In front of you, the default view, so the view that you get when you open it up. In this case, I've got the test cases tab open, so I've got my test cases on the left hand in what is called the navigation pane. It's called the navigation pane because it contains all of the tree and the folder processes that's within it. So it's in a folder tree view. So it shows how to navigate through various items within Tosca. On the right-hand side, we have what we call the working pane. Now the working pane, it's quite self-explanatory. It's where you would do the work. So if you wished to work on the login test step, you click login and you have it here. You can work on it, amend it, change it, modify it. So in this side you work on it, in this side you would navigate. It's the easiest way to find the items that you're looking for. Also in the working pane you'll notice you've got some tabs up here, which is the details, properties, which tell you much more detailed information about what the item is that you're looking at, and a control flow diagram. This can be very useful because when you get to doing more complicated test cases, this will show you which bits it's in, where it's going to, and you can visually look at the flow. Moving to some more basic areas, we've got the ribbons at the top here. These ribbons allow you to do very basic things as well. So here you can open and close your different sections of Tosca. You've got some multi-users, which we'll get into, multi-user options, which we'll get into a little later. You can import and export subsets. That's very important. If you wish to share something that's unique to you, so your own information within Tosca, so your own artifacts, your own items, you can do so by exporting or import somebody else's subset. So it's a way of saving your work and forwarding it to other people. We've then got some other for manual test takes, exploratory scenarios, and automated test cases for recording as well. Up here, nice important part here, nice and simple, we have the most important button, your save button. So you must keep and save your work, and you have a undo button and a redo button. So you can undo work that you've just done and redo work that you've just done. Very similar to the Windows style environment. One little tip that we'll give you about the undo button is you can undo as many times, pretty much I think it's 5,000 undos if you can remember that far back. However, click that save button and you will only be able to undo back to that save. Okay, it's a useful thing. So when you're hitting that undo button thinking, I don't want to do that anymore, it may be because you've hit save, in which case you're going to have to go back and do it manually. So Tosca Commander is mainly inspired in a Microsoft Windows Explorer style. That is, all the elements are shown in a tree view. Each element is connected to several elements of the same kind and on the same element, starting from the root level. So in this case, my root level is the test case folder here. Root folders are quite important. At the root level, it allows you, there are more admin-y type things and certain things that you can do at the root folder level. And if you ever get lost, you can always just click to the root level and you should be able to navigate back to where you need to be. One of the things that you'll soon get to know as well and love, I hope, is the context and mini toolbar. So if I was to right-click on Navigate to Login Page Test Step, you'll see two items have popped up on the right-click. The first you have is the mini toolbar. Now this allows you to do most of the important things within that element. So in this case, there's not an awful lot, but if I was to go to this test step here and go to the test, you'll notice I've got a huge amount of options on the mini toolbar. So these are all options that I could use. Create a new folder, create a duplicate, add test configuration parameters, etc., etc. One little tip for you as well, depending on which element that you're on and the mini toolbar is open with, you may get this little ellipsis, I believe is the word for it. If you click this, you get further options as well. So it may well be that the option that you want isn't available on the mini toolbar. Click Create, and more options will appear there. But depending on what you can do depends on how many options you get. So for example, in this folder, it's a root folder as such for this, this set of test steps. It doesn't have much that you can do with it. Also on there, you'll notice that when we clicked it, we also had the context menu. The context menu allows you to do a number of other things as well. Cut, copy, modify. Depending on where you are, again, depends on what you need to do. Many of these are quite complicated things. Some of them are very easy. The running scratchbook, for example, is one that you will be requiring and will be using an awful lot, but you can also use the F6 key, because another little benefit that you've got, all of the major items that you can do and use have keyboard shortcuts. So in this case, if you were to press F6, you would run in the scratchbook. If you press Control X and Control C, you cut or copy. So for example, I wish to open a new, put a new file in here. I can press Control and NF, and as if by magic, a new folder appears. And there we are. Also we have, you've already seen, we've got cut, copy, and paste. Those are all available. So I could, for example, copy this test step, if I get it right, and paste it into my new folder. All done. And we've also got the option that you can drag elements as well, drag and drop. You'll see that we drag and drop elements quite a lot within Tosca, and as you go forward further, you'll find that we drag and drop quite a lot at the time. One of the other things that we've got is perspectives. If you have a layout of Tosca that you like, you can save it as a perspective. So what you can basically do is, I like to have my modules up here on the side. How we do this we'll get to in a minute. Or my test case design, my modules. I can then save this by going to View. I can manage. I can save it as a new perspective. And then once I want to use my new, if I go to my default perspective, it takes me back to the beginning, but if I want to use my new perspective, bang, it's down and to how I like my workspace.
Okay, so Melissa here again. I'm just going to go through what Tony just covered with the perspectives a little bit slower. What's great is finding a way that your workspace works for you, setting it up in a way that works for you every day. You can open it up, you have your modules, your test cases, your test case design, whatever you need in your perspective. And there are multiple ways of setting that up. So one thing to know about Tosca is you can dock your windows. So here in the home window, you can see this is one way to open all of your different sections of Tosca. Also, in the default view, in this particular project, we only have some of the sections of Tosca, but in a normal default view, brand new project, you're going to have all of the sections, including requirements and everything. So one thing you can do is actually dock. You can drag right from the bottom. You can dock your window by looking at this blue sort of map in the middle. You can put something right in the middle, and that fills up the whole screen. You could put something to the left, top, the right, and the bottom. Okay? And so if this is something that you want to save, and this is the way you would like to work, that's where you go back into Manage, Save, and you can even import and export other perspectives that people have created. And then back to default or go back into new perspective. So the docking is super handy, saving your perspectives. Knowing where your folders are located, which is at the bottom in your shortcuts down here, or in the Go-To at the very top. You can also close the windows by the little X at the bottom and reopen it from here. And if you'd like to open something in its own window, you can also do that by right-clicking it down here. You can reposition them. Or, say for instance, I only want to work in order process automated, and I want to have a very clear view of that alone. What I can do if I'd like is just right-click on this and choose Open a New Window, and the shortcut for that is Control-W, Control-N. And then you can set it up however you like, and you can always save that. Another important thing about working in a very reasonable workspace for you is knowing about the different columns. So depending on what you're doing and which section of Tosca you're in, you'll need different columns open. And to open and close these columns, you can close them by dragging each column down, and then you see an X, and you can let go. And then you can right-click on the column header row and choose Column Choose. And you see this handy little menu down here. And depending on which section you're in, you can see which columns are available. And then you just double-click on it, and you can rearrange them. And you can always stretch them out and shorten them depending on what is visible. Okay, one other element that's really important is the component folder. And that's going to be this these gray ones you can see right here. So in your project group folder up here, you'll be able to see all the sections of Tosca that your particular project involves. And then the component folders, those are great ways to just organize multiple projects, for instance. If you are working on multiple courses, Tosca, you could save all of your elements, elements from the subsets that you import into a different component folder. And then when you open that up, you'd be able to see just the sections from that project. And then you different component folder and see all of those elements. So it's a great thing to get to know how to use, especially if you want to be experimenting, testing things out. You can do that in a component folder, and it won't be changing your project and won't be affecting any work from a real project. So that's a great way to just try things out.
Okay, so now we're going to look a little bit at the multi-user. Working in a multi-user environment. Now, just for the time being, we're going to move away from Tosca and just talk about the theory and the practice of how we actually and how Tosca works within the multi-user environment. So we'll be a little bit of time on a PowerPoint now. So the multi-user concept. Talk about the theory of how it works for a little while. Tricentis distinguishes between a single user and multi-user workspaces. A workspace is simply a container for your test artifacts and your data. In the single user workspace, only one person has access to the workspace. That is because it's on your local computer. So if you close your computer and walk away, nobody else can access the information on your one workspace. It's yours. It's only yours. You don't have to administer this except for yourself. You need to know where your own work is, etc. But nobody else has to look after it. However, it's not actually practical in most projects to have a single user workspace. Having a series of single user workspaces just doesn't work. So in actual fact, what we have is the multi-user workspace. The multi-user workspace simplifies data administration by saving all the data of a project to one central location, which is called the common repository. The common repository must be created, which is done by your admin when we first set up and when a Tosca is first set up on in the project itself, and it's used and stores data and manages multiple workspaces. So the common repository is the core of the multi-user environment and the central store of the data. What it does is when you first create the common repository, it also creates a workspace, and you as a user need to connect to that workspace. So you will connect to that workspace using your username and your password, which the administrator will set up. What will then happen is your workspace, so your computer, will take a local copy of the common repository. So you will then have your own copy of, or working copy of the common repository upon your computer. All the changes that you make are locally. They're done on your machine. So when you're finished with them, they need to be uploaded to the common repository, so the common repository has with the central information has the most up-to-date central information for use for everybody else. One interesting point here, and one thing to bear in mind, with the multiple user, you almost have the same Tosca level, the same installation. So if you have Tosca 9.3, everybody has to have Tosca 9.3. You can't upgrade on your own, and it simply won't work. So you all need the same logins. So we now know that several workspaces will connect to the common repository, depending on how many people are within, how many users are multiply using your project. Initially, when you first enter and access the workspace, you will only have read-only permissions for all the elements within the common repository. So if you wish to modify an element, you need to lock that element in the common repository. You lock it and you take it and work on it yourself. Once the element has been locked, it can only be modified by the user that has locked it. And modifications can only be carried out in that user's workspace. So I check something out, only I can now modify that item. Once I've finished, or once the user has finished making the modifications, the modified element must be unlocked and be made available to all the other users. So the following commands that you can see up on the screen that we have and that you will use. Checkout. This allows a user to modify the element. It takes that element and locks it to that user. You can also, there is another one here which we'll talk about a little bit later, which is called checkout tree, which checks out that element and everything below it. But we'll talk about why that might be a problem in a little while. The second one you have is the check in all. This uploads the modified version, so what you had checked out, it uploads the changes to the common repository. The final one you have is the update all. So this updates your common repository, so when you click this, it takes everybody else's changes and saves them onto your local copy of the common repository. So if you want to see other people's work, you need to update all to get a hold of it. One thing that's important to bear in mind though, and this is really important, you don't have to check out an item to use it. If I want to use a module in a test case, I don't have to check out that module in order to put it into my test case. I can simply drag and drop it because I have read-only access. What is important is if I wish to modify that module, then I need to check it out. The same goes with test cases. If I just want to add a test case to an execution list, I just need to drag and drop it on. I only need to check it out if I wish to amend or modify or change that test case. Okay, we'll just go over a few other little important items within the checkout, within the three checkout, check-in all, and update all. So, checkout. Checkout reserves the right for a single user to edit an element. The element will be unavailable for anybody else to modify. So before you can make changes, it needs to be locked out by the user. So this is done using checkout. The command checkout, it's that lock. I'll show it to you in Tosca in a second. Once an element has a status checked out, there's a little icon which goes red. Again, we'll look at this in a second. It's then locked by that person and no one else can make any changes to it. Now, we recommend, as in Tricentis, you only check out individual items. So you check out the individual items that you wish to check out yourself. So, for example, in the morning you've been told by somebody that you need to work on 15 test cases. Just check out one test case at a time. Don't check out all of them, because multiple people checking out multiple things will affect the efficiency and the speed of your network. One other thing, you can also only check out whole elements, so a whole module or a whole test case. So you can't check out a module attribute or a test step. You need to check out the whole element of itself. Okay, let's move into check-in all. So check-in all uploads the modified version of an element to the common repository. So before other users can use your modifications, the changes must be uploaded into the common repository. So you use check-in all. Once it's been checked in, the element is then accessible to all other users as soon as they refresh their workspace. So if you check in your changes to the modules, they're not instantly available to everybody. The other people will need to click on Update All to be able to see them. Tricentis always recommends performing a check-in all before closing a workspace, particularly before going home, particularly going on holiday. Because if you do go on holiday for 3 weeks with your computer, you've checked out 15 elements, no one else can modify those elements while you're on holiday, which isn't great. Admins can, if you do that, it happens, admins can rectify it, but it means that any changes that you've made on your local machine will get wiped, which isn't great. Okay, next we have the Update All button. This is quite quick. This uploads all the changes to the common repository. One of the things this does is anything that's new, so any new items will be added to the common repository. So if you create something completely from scratch, it's not there until you update all. Also, any changes to items already saved in the common repository will be uploaded, and any changes made to objects by other users will be downloaded. So, you don't have to guess whether or not something is checked in or checked out. Tosca tells you which items are checked in, checked out, or not, or aren't even in the common repository yet. So looking at the slide, the first symbol we have there, if you look to the side, next to cell phones, 20 cell phones, you have a little white icon. White means that it's newly created and only exists in your local workspace. So it can only be edited by the current user because it doesn't exist in the common repository as such. You need to click on Update All to put it in. Green symbol, this means the element is checked out, locked for the exclusive use of the current user. The element is reserved to be edited by the current user. Red symbol, that means it's checked out or locked by another user. So you can't now modify it. You can use it, but you can't modify it. And when there's no color, so for example in the digital downloads image you have there, this means the element is read-only. So no one's actually checked it out. It's there available to be checked out, but only it's available for you if you need it. Once you've completed modifications, commit the changes to the common repository and check everything in. So let's look briefly at we'll look at some checklists. So we're going to talk about this. What we'll actually do is we'll look at these within Tosca so that you can actually see them in action and see the multi-user workspace in action. But the key things that we would tell you, if you're using a multi-user workspace, check out the necessary sections that you need at the time only. Check in at least once a day. Please don't check out tree because you'll block other users. And update, the item that you'll be using is update automatically when you checked it out. So let's look again at Tosca. Okay, so what I'm first of all going to do is I'm actually going to go back to my default view. And now we've got test cases, and I'm also going to bring up the module section. I'm working on test cases. Test cases and modules go hand in hand like fish and chips and salt and vinegar. So we'll have those together so that we can look at them and actually have a see them together. So I'm working on these test cases for which I need these modules. Now, first things first, we'll look at we can see here examples, all the examples of the icons that I talked of. If we just look at the test cases first of all, you can see that this is red, therefore this is being checked out and being worked on by another user. I can see it, but I can't edit it. This green icon here on test means that I have this checked out, so I can edit it. I can change it, I can go into subfolders, I can change test steps, etc., etc. This white item here means that I've created this. This is a test step that I've just created, a test case I've just created, and it only exists in my local workspace, so I can't touch it. No one else even knows it exists until I click on check in and update all. So, check out necessary sections. By this we mean if I'm supposed to be working on this template, calculate shipping costs, I should only check out that item, calculate shipping costs. This is thinking now. The reason being is that allows me. This only allows me to. This means that I'm not locking multiple sections of Tosca for other users, so they can't then access it. So I'll only access certain things at a certain time. We talked about the checkout tree. So if I go here, you can see here that this module section, everything is red on it. What that essentially means is, and I know this because I'm the other user in this case, is this other user has checked out the entire module tree. Now, if there was multiple people working in the module section, all of these modules would be, I wouldn't be able to work on them, but because they're checked out. I can use them, so I can drag them and drop them into my test cases, but I can't amend them. I can't change them. So checkout tree is always dangerous because you can have multiple items checked out and you can block users from being able to access them. If you do try to check out a tree, though, there is one good thing. It will give you a warning. So if I try this, I might have lost connection during this webinar. So unfortunately, it may well not work. But if I do try to click at the whole checkout tree, I do get a warning. And the warning will be, this is 60 items. Do you really want to do this? So you do get a warning about this. So yeah, unfortunately, it seems I've lost connection to my common database. But yeah, I would have got a warning saying, do you really want to do this? And it'll be a reminder. The last item is when you do automatically check something out. So if I wanted to check login out, not login, that's new, I can't. If I did want to check, for example, the order process out, which it won't let me because the connection is broken, if I do wish to check that out, it'll do an update first. So then the very latest version that's been uploaded will be uploaded will be given to me. So you don't have to click update all before you check out every item. It's a good idea to click update all at the beginning of the day or at regular times during the day, but if you're worried about items not being the most relevant ones, don't be, because when you click checkout, they are the most relevant ones that you need. Okay, so that's the sort of us talking-y bit and giving the information. What we're going to do now is look at responding to some of your questions. Please feel free to send more questions in. We've got 25 minutes, which is lots of time. There's quite a lot of you in the MOOC, so please send in your questions, and we will now try and answer as many of them as possible. Good news is we've got Jonathan here as well, who is with his official title of expert. means that he can give real world examples and real world experience as well for some of your questions. So please send in your questions. But the first question has come in.
Okay, so for anyone who had been joining late, I just want to let you know, welcome. There is a question section here on your menu on the right-hand side of your screen, perhaps, and you can write in your questions right there. We'll just give you a minute to gather some more of them coming on in. And if anybody's having a problem with your audio or your screen, I want to let you know that this session will be recorded, and we will send an email when the recording is available. So just give us a minute, and we'll be right back to answer the first questions that have come in. Thanks.
Okay, so we're back. Thanks for waiting. So the first question we've had is, what are the different types of repositories? So if you're setting up your common repository, what different types can we use? So I'll just quickly switch to Tosca again. And Melissa, what different types of repositories do we have?
Well, you can see that right here when you go to open a new project. And that's going to be right here when you create your new workspace, the different types of repositories. And in the TCP course, there's an entire exercise section about setting up a multi-user workspace, and the admins on your location should be able to do this for you. You would likely just be a user, and admins can actually go in, create users, set their initial passwords, create user groups, organize the whole back end of that. But when they're setting this up, they're going to go into this type of repository. We support SQLite, MS SQL Server, Oracle, and DB2. So you'd be deciding based on what's best for you. When you want to do just a training for us, or maybe just do something on your own, you could select none, and that will create a single user workspace. In a single user workspace, there's absolutely no checking in and out anything.
Okay. One other question that we've had is regarding the excluding all from the tree. So essentially, when it comes to updating and checking in, checking out, and so on, etc., it may well be that you've got a very, very large common repository that maybe you don't work in everything. So it may well be that you don't need access to some of the test cases. So if I go back to my project, for example, you may well not need access to test case design all the time. So what you can actually is exclude this from the update. So it just means it saves time on the synchronization when you update your workspace. Now to do that, all you need to do is exclude tree from synchronization. So click that, and hopefully it'll work. And what you see here is, well, if you look in the navigation pane, I'll dock it for you. Close this one. There we go. You'll see that you've now got a little cloud icon. Now this cloud icon is telling you that this element isn't going to be synchronized. You want to change your mind, you want to include it, right click, and you can include the tree, and you can include for synchronization again. So just right click, left click. You also noticed it grayed out. Now it's back to being a nice healthy red color. May bear in mind another part of the navigation which really helps within Tosca is all the different colors. Each element, each section has its own color. Many of us in Tricentis refers not to the name of the sections, but the colors. So I'm working in blue today, so the test cases I'm working in green in execution. We've also had a question about sharing the slides come in. Now, we will be sharing the entire presentation again on our website somehow. There'll be details on how that happens in future. The entire webinar MOOC has indeed been recorded, so hopefully we'll be able to share, well, definitely you will be able to see the entire webinar again, and it's possible that we might be able to share the slide deck. We'll have to look into that for you. Now just bear with us a second. We're now going to identify a couple more questions for you, so we'll be back very shortly. Hi guys, and we're back. We've had a couple of people have asked the same question, and it's a good question. How do you know who's checked out all the items? So if we look at, we talked about the fact that there was this person within my workspace who had checked out the entire module tree. I urgently need to update the navigation elements or elements in all pages. In fact, I need to update the top menu. My designers have made a change to the app, and the top menu's changed. Now this is crucial that we change it because the top menu is used in every single one of our test cases. We urgently need to amend and change the top menu, but we can't because it's checked out. So what I can do is I can right click and I can see the Show Checkout Details tab in the context menu. I click that and up will pop who's got it. So in this case it's user admin and the OS, so the operating system user, is Antley using this machine. So you've got three options there to try and find it: the username, the user of the operating system name, and the machine. Now oddly enough, that username admin is me, the user OS is me, and that would be my machine. So in actual fact I'm going to give myself a very, very severe talking to and check in the module. So yes, that's how it is. Also interestingly enough here, if you right click, you can also see and look at the latest changes that have been made. So you can see that the last change to the top menu was done in the 27th of the 7th, just after midnight. He was working late, and it was the user again was admin, but the actual OS user was ADROY. So if you've got multiple admins there, for example, so we've got a user called admin, it's being used multiple times. It also tells me the OS user, which was ADROY, and the machine that he was using as well. It gives further information.
One more question was about demonstrating automating something in UI. We're actually not going to do that in this session today, but I want to let you know what sessions are coming up in the following MOOCs. Next week, we're going to be going into creation and reusability of modules. This is again next Wednesday at the same time. So we will be going into modules next week, and then the following week we'll be going into naming conventions and test case structures. So those are some topics that might be interesting to you. If you would like to get more into UI automation, the course that we recommend for you is called Automation Specialist Level 1. This is an intro level course. It just came out in August. It's really awesome, and you dive right into automation. You spend a lot of time in the blue section, and it's all UI. So go for that course, check it out, find some more information on our website. But today we're not going to be covering that. In the next couple weeks you'll be seeing a little bit more using our sample web shop application when we create the modules and perhaps run some things using Tosca.
Okay, so we've still got a few minutes left. We're going to go back to your questions, and again, look to see if we can find some more questions, so common questions that we can ask for the next 5 minutes or so. So again, just bear with us 1 second while we find your questions and organize the answers. And we're back. We've had a request to, a couple of requests to just go quickly back over perspectives, so we will do that again. So, okay, let me just quickly get up Tosca for you. There we go. And Melissa.
Okay, so thank you for joining everyone, but perhaps some people joined late. This was something that we covered earlier on in the session. There were some topics you were expecting to hear today, but you weren't able to listen to. Just join into the recording later on. So for perspectives, what's awesome is in Tosca you're able to save your workspace setup. The way that you like to work in Tosca, you can save it and reuse it every time you'd like to work on different things, for example. So here we have the View tab up top in the ribbon bar up top. So you've got the Manage, which is all about perspectives. This area is just for perspectives. Manage and Select. If you click on Manage, you're able to import or export a perspective. You can also save a perspective and manage them. So by a perspective, what I mean is which sections do you have open and how are they arranged? So from Home, for instance, I can open all of these things. This project doesn't have requirements actually, and say this is the way that I like to work with everything. But maybe I'd like to have this in its own window. You can click on any item and open it in its own window to have a better view. So this exactly is not the best way to be working in Tosca. But one nice way to be working is having your test cases next to your modules. So you can dock a window by using this docking option. And your modules you can also put on any position of the screen you'd like and say this is the way that I prefer to work. So what I would do here is View, Manage, Save. New Perspective 2 might be the name that I choose. I press OK, and then under Select, when I'd like to change it, I can go to Default, which goes back to the Tosca default, New Perspective, which is one I saved earlier, or New Perspective 2. So you just have that. You also have some shortcuts up here if you'd like to switch between the windows. say if you're working in the module section, you like to have it a certain way, you could save that, and then you could switch to your test cases, preference, that sort of thing. And you can just get used to using the shortcuts right up here. So there you are. That's a little bit of a recap on perspectives.
We've had a couple of people asking questions about exploratory testing. Now, we at Tricentis support and love exploratory testing, so would like to let you know that there is in actual fact some webinars coming up on this item, organized by Tricentis ourselves. So we also, as well as operating these MOOCs, we also operate a number of highly interesting and highly useful and valuable webinars. Now, there is one called coming up called Catch Bugs Earlier and Faster with Exploratory Testing. These are done in numerous different time zones as well as also being recorded. So if you're interested in exploratory testing, you could look at that webinar, as well as also looking at previous webinars or any ones going forward in the future. You can register for those on our website. I believe Jonathan has actually shared the link to those of you that's asked. But if you go to the Tricentis homepage, there is a link, a tab at the top called Events and Webinar. You would be able to register and look at upcoming events and webinars then. Okay.
All right, we'll just wait a couple more minutes. Thank you everyone for your questions. If there's anything else regarding these topics, just send it to us in the question box. We'd love to use the next 5 minutes to answer anything that you're still wondering about. But other than that, when we do close this session, there will be a survey that pops up for each of you. I just would love to have each of you